G'day and welcome to what might be a few editions of the Aussie Ideas Man. Finally, I get to see this Aptera's Third Wheel podcast, the podcast that is supposed to be explaining why they have switched the drivetrain. I have been watching the cretin on AAC do two parts covering the July update and couldn't be bothered making any video about that because it was also Mickey Mouse. And I've watched Taylosive do another coverage, and I've not even bothered to watch Free Power make videos anymore because they are completely useless. Just over enthusiasm, but nonsense about stuff that is too old to begin with. Seen it too many times by people like AAC, Drive the Lightning, an engineer, Taylosive. All of these people are more than enough to get my information about Aptera, which basically is nothing much happening and lots of excuses as to why nothing's happening or pretending a lot's happening. This is how it's going. I just thought I'd show my face for once, but when I get into the video itself, I'll be doing what I usually do, just off the cuff comments, pausing it, and I won't be visible at all. It's not a good time to even make this video because there's a lot of the Olympics that I can watch now. It's on. And this sort of stuff takes a lot of my time. Don't know how many sections this will be broken up into, but before I give the sign off for all of them, I'd just like to make this point. Nearly 3 years ago, I thought that this might be the biggest double scam in the world's history. And as we get closer to production as they pretend, I still think the same. Everything over the past almost 3 years has just looked like this thing is never intended to come to fruition. Well, here we go. Our drivetrain, Aptera's Third Wheel podcast. Let's see how I go, pausing and thinking on the fly.
Hey Aptera fans, Chris here from marketing. Today we're doing a really cool new show called the Third Wheel Podcast. I'm here with Steve Fambro, the co-CEO and founder, and Richard, I don't even know your last name. What's your last name?
Fabini.
Richard.
Okay, first thing I noticed when I went through this whole 30 minutes was how this weedy little guy in the middle, Chris McCannon, giggled a lot and said cool a lot and just sounded more like a schoolboy than somebody doing a professional podcast for a large organisation. The other thing I noticed was how grey this guy was on the right. Now, he did explain that as early as 2006 he learned about Aptera, and I think he had to finish his studies before he could join them. So let's say he was 20 at 2006 for easy reckoning. That would make him now, in 2024, 34 years old. I've never seen a bloke so grey at 34 years old in all my life. Just an observation. Or was that 38 years old?
Fabini, the director of engineering, right?
Yes.
Amazing. So this is a new monthly show where we're going to be interviewing different engineers, different zones, talking about what they're working on in more detail than we can get into in a normal video. So really excited to get into this. So Richard, tell me about your background, your history, and how you got to Aptera.
Sure. Well, it's been kind of a long, interesting career path for me. I actually started at Aptera. Back in college in 2007, a friend told me about this company, and I was instantly hooked. I was working on the super mileage vehicle team at UC Berkeley and basically building a highly aerodynamic, ultra lightweight, efficient streamliner with 3 wheels. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, and so I had the opportunity after the Shell Eco Marathon one year to bring it down here in the back of a rental truck and knocked on the door and got to show Steve and Chris what we were up to, and then got to see all the new development that they were working on, which was like the actual real world application of what we'd been fiddling around with for 4 years in college. So yeah, that was very exciting. Came down after graduating, and Chris offered me a job, and I worked on battery mechanical design, powertrain design and release for basically all the powertrain components, the battery, the high voltage system, the motor. It was very exciting.
Wow.
And that culminated with a lot of simulation engineering, in fact, that was proven at the Argonne National Lab's Advanced Powertrain Research Facility. And so I had a lot of fun here at Aptera 1.0 and went on and developed my career at 2 other electrified startups doing commercial vehicles for plug-in hybrids, and then fully electric vehicles at Echo Automotive and Via Motors. Spanning controls engineering, systems engineering, and ultimately directing the research and development activity. And I stayed in loose contact with Steve, and it looked like the time was maybe right, and it really didn't take a whole lot of convincing to bring me back. I was super excited.
Maybe Jamie back in the control room could bring up an image of his car.
Yes.
I was sitting in my office, and I saw this moving van pull up and back up. And I'm thinking, like, we didn't order any furniture. We're not moving. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then someone tells me, hey, there's some kid out here who brought some car in the back of his moving van. And, of course, I came out and met you. And we had read every book, at least Chris is a big reader, but every book on the Shell Eco Marathon cars, that we could find. And so we very much drew from that whole space that, as with, many endeavors, it's the university kids who are like leading the way. They're like pushing the boundary more than industry. And so we were already watching that space and then drawing from it heavily. And then to have, Richard from Berkeley drive down unannounced, hopes of like bringing his resume in the back of the truck. It was great. It was the Aptera way. It was just like, go for it, do it. Don't wait for permission, just do it. So.
That's so cool. And then how did Richard get back? Did you just reach out to him?
I think I did. Maybe we stayed in contact on LinkedIn probably. Mm-hmm. And when when we started growing and having need for very specific folks, and I think I was following the parent company that he was working for. I thought, well, maybe it's a good time to reach out to him and see if he's interested in helping us out. And I think we should get a picture, maybe not only with Richard, but the other people from Aptera 1.0 that we've managed to bring back in, because it's not insignificant. It's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think what we found is that they all feel like there's a bit of unfinished business to do,
Mm-hmm.
and we all want to do it and finish it. So, but I think it was an easy conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that. That's great. What are you doing this time around?
So I'm working primarily on powertrain, including the electric drive machine and the vehicle control unit and the axles. And so that's really getting the top of my attention right now.
Very important stuff.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It drives the vehicle.
Right. So, Steve, before we get to the drivetrain discussion, let's talk about transparency for a minute. I remember in the February update, you were saying, there's some changes up ahead. We can't share them just yet, but you wanted to inform people to the degree that you could at that time. What does transparency mean to you in Aptera, in this company community?
Well, it means different things, I suppose. I was asked a similar question on a podcast or interview I did a couple of weeks ago, and I said I couldn't take credit for it. It was other people here really that helped build that culture of transparency, and that Chris and I do our best to uphold it and live up to it, and promulgate it through the company. So I think it means just being as honest and forthcoming as we can with our customers, with our shareholders, sharing as much information as we can when we can. Obviously, there's lots of things that may be company confidential, decisions about materials or suppliers or things like that. There's just some things that we have to be careful about when and how we share. But for the most part, we do our best to share everything that we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think about, the change from honeycomb to CTNS, or honeycomb to CPC.
Right.
From, hiring CTNS to help make the battery packs. These are, big, important changes, but, we announced them once they were, inked in, ready to be shared, which is, I think, the best we can do.
And a lot of times they come from maybe the overall business case has changed or the environment has changed. In the case of honeycomb and resin infusion composites, Chris and I had wrapped our head around 1 or 2,000 units a year using the UV curable resin. The method we have here downstairs, like we can make a structural resin infused part cured in 2 or 3 minutes. So it's very fast, but it's still an order of magnitude more work and labor than the carbon fiber SMC. And when we started taking pre-orders for the vehicle, we thought we would have a couple of hundred, and we got a few thousand in a few weeks. And so we realized that the way we were thinking about building this vehicle just would not work. We had to go find a better way to build a vehicle at scale. And we did. And that's how we found CPC. Alkosh introduced us to them. But that's it's an example of as soon as we were able to share information about that relationship, we did. But there was a time we first met them and we were seeing if we could work together and didn't really know if we had a deal together or not, that we just couldn't talk about it.
Right. Yeah, no, that was a really exciting time. There's a lot of excitement going on right now at Aptera right now, I'd say. I mean, stuff is really going on everywhere in every zone. It's pretty nuts. I mean, you're probably stupid busy, aren't you, Richard?
Okay, I let it run because there is nearly 1/3 of the time wasted, and they're supposed to be talking about the drivetrain according to the title. So I'll just give my thoughts so far. Richard's background is irrelevant. Nice, heartwarming story, maybe, but irrelevant. They have switched the drivetrain, and people need to know why. They don't need to know all about Richard's background. Not at all. Think about any car you've ever bought in your life, and what have you known about any of the employees' backgrounds? And have you ever been interested in them? I would say no. He mentions company confidential, and looking back at the things that they have withheld for months and months, they shouldn't have been confidential. In fact, they should have been told because they were impacting on what people were expecting to buy, and I particularly refer to the accelerator people. They knew that they were going to change things well before they advertised the accelerator program and the specific vehicle that they were going to be putting a pre-order down on and investing in. They knew that these changes were coming. They don't need to break any NDAs, and in fact, in most cases, they're just thinking about doing other things and have not made any deals with anybody to have an NDA over. But in either case, NDAs consist of things that suppliers might say that they don't want revealed about them. But if they're going, we're going to switch the whole type of drivetrain or switch the whole type of body shell or any of these things, major changes, if they're thinking of doing those, there is no reason why they can't make that known to potential customers. No reason at all. They could have been saying months and months ago, this vehicle might have these changes done to them, and name the changes. They don't have to say who the supplier is going to be or anything of any detail that would be subject to an NDA. They just have to tell us what they're intending to do. It's as simple as saying our 7 times stronger than steel composite body shell is now going to change to a toothpaste type carbon fiber construction that doesn't have the properties of the composite body shell. It has different properties. They don't have to name CPC. And they also can say, our in-hub motors aren't coming quick enough, so we're switching to a completely different type of drivetrain. They don't need to name Vitesco or whatever they are. They don't have to name anything. They just have to tell people up front when they've decided that it's a possibility. They need to tell them that these things might occur in the future. There's nothing to do with NDAs. It's nothing to do with keeping confidentialities with suppliers. He's pulling the wool over your eyes, and it's unrealistic. Any fool can see through the lies. The notion that the resin-infused composite shell was able to be made relatively fast was news to me. I actually thought they changed to CPC because of the speed of production. In any case, this move to CPC has proven to be much slower than they're able to make prototypes to date, and there are other ways to make the resin-infused shells as quickly as they need them. I've explained this in other places, but they can have 4 or 5 factories all making them simultaneously so that any wait time for things such as drying, curing, whatever, are accommodated for. For all of the videos I end up making, it's bye for now. Stay safe. That's all from me.